In a recent report, the consulting firm McKinsey asserted that 75% of the technologies needed to address climate change already exist today. In the Accelerator program, we focus on two things: focus and validation. The founders that come in with an idea for using an existing or maybe an emerging technology need to back that up with figuring out if there is actually a customer for that technology, for that. And a lot of times they come in with great passion, they come in with great hopes, but not any clue of what problem they're trying to solve. So over the 12 weeks, we introduce them to customers, we introduce them to subject matter experts, we introduce them to people that will challenge their ideas, that will look at what they're doing and encourage them to match that up with a problem that needs to be solved in a particular industry, in a particular job title, in a particular job focus, where they can actually figure out who is their customer, and more importantly, who is not their customer. And that's probably 80% of the challenge right there. So with that, figuring out the customer is one of the things that we have a lot of subject matter experts talk about. I want to add my congratulations and appreciation to Mark Swanson for his contributions and his continued support to the program, that we hopefully continue with his original vision in helping these early stage founders solve problems, apply technology, and really figure out what it is that the customers need. I want to thank the corporate champions. We've had that up before, but I want to thank the corporate champions that were there from the very, very beginning of the program. From the vetting of the companies, we had over 250 applications. Going through those applications, working with people from ARC, with Duke Energy, with PODS. They were there for the calls. They were there going through all the various iterations of the Zoom interviews that we did, all the ways that we had to figure out how to go from 250 down to the 8 companies that we actually ended up with. It was not an easy process, but they were there, and I very much appreciate the help from all of their teams to be able to do that. Including but not limited to Allie and Harry from Kathy's team over at ARC. We were great help for that. John, Hans, Lisa, and Ben from Duke Energy, as well as Opal Perry and Luke Edelman from PODS Moving and Storage. They were invaluable in helping me get through those 250 applications and narrow it down to a good group of cohesive founders that not only worked with us in the program, but worked with each other. It really is a peer support group. So a special thanks to the other sponsors and community partners that help promote the many programs at the Innovation Center, including the Accelerator program. So they're all listed on this slide up here. Pinellas County Economic Development, St. Pete Downtown Partnership, Tampa Bay Ventures, Kyle Taylor, the St. Pete EDC, and of course our community partners, Florida Funders, St. Pete, the City of St. Pete Innovation District, the folks at Synapse, and Florida Venture Forum. I also want to recognize the guest speakers and the mentors that participate in the program. I could not do this program by myself. I lean heavily on the tech community to provide subject matter experts, the people that really understand the intricacies of early stage technology companies. Them coming in as guest speakers, them not only acting as guest speakers, but also acting as mentors, having one-on-ones with the various founders, really helps us get from that point of being passionate about a technology to understanding where they can apply that technology and solve real-world problems. So I also want to, speaking of all the founders, I want to recognize some of the alumni that we have in the group. As Tanya mentioned, this is our 6th cohort, but the previous 5 cohorts, before and during COVID, have had a very, very challenging time dealing with me in Zoom calls. So I want to reach out. I know that we've got Alexis Bell and Paul Dunlop from Shota Signals, wave, who are looking at market risk and market pressure. Let's see. I'm not sure. Christina Dills, who I talked to earlier, who is right there at Smart Edge Technology. Thank you, Christina, for coming out. Gabe Higgins and Rosa Shores, I know were registered, but I'm not sure they made it, but they were with Block Spaces, doing some very interesting things in the blockchain space. Roy Hahn with Cross Compute. Roy, did you make it today? Roy's also working on an area related to climate tech and working with microgrids for emerging communities. And Scott Ehrenberg. Scott, did you make it? Scott is not here. So Scott was in our very, very first cohort, who we actually did present here, who's working on novel battery technologies for energy storage. Our alumni companies have made significant gains in generating their product, testing their product in the marketplace, getting some actual customers, in some cases hiring a tremendous amount of staff and boosting their team. And some have actually attracted capital from really all over the country, not just locally here. So very, very excited to be working with those alumni on an ongoing basis, helping them really grow their companies and generate the products that will help the marketplace. So with that, I'd like to introduce the panel, or actually let the panel introduce themselves. We'll probably be able to do that. Andreas Calabrese from Tampa Bay Ventures is first.
Hello, everyone. My name is, I guess I'll stand up. My name is Andreas Calabrese. My partner Marcus is here today as well. We're the co-founders of Tampa Bay Ventures. We're a venture fund that's focused exclusively on investing here in Tampa Bay. We've been very excited to partner with the team and see everything that they're building, and excited to see some great pitches today.
Next is Ben Potts from Deepwork Capital.
Hello, my name is Ben Potts. I'm one of the founding partners at Deepwork Capital, and we invest in early-stage venture capital companies throughout the state of Florida predominantly. We also manage the state of Florida's venture capital program, of which one of the key elements is a clean energy tech fund, which is particularly the lens we're looking at things through this year.
And Candice Razanian.
Good evening, and thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. It's wonderful. Candice Razvanian. I am a recovering venture capitalist. I guess you could say I've been an institutional investor for about 10 years, but I've transitioned now into the services side as the founder of Legible VC, where I help venture capitalists and startups become good stewards of investment capital through proven systems and best-in-practice standards and industry resources.
And last but not least, Joy Randalls with the Prowess Group, who is guest speaker, mentor, so many other things to the program.
So I'm Joy Randalls, and I have the Prowess Group, which I actually work with founders. I'm a serial entrepreneur myself, and I work with founders in helping them scale and exit their companies. And I have New Market Partners, which is my venture fund that focuses on pre-seed through Series A in the technology space, and I'm an LP in 3 venture funds.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And all right, so let's get right into the program and talk to the startup founders. The format for this program, which we developed over Zoom, is to convince these people to give up their 12 to 15-page presentation deck that they're so comfortable in using and consolidate their idea and the state of affairs, where they are as far as a startup, into about 60 seconds. A little bit different format than you're used to. There will be 1 slide per company, 60 seconds. If they get to 90, I'm going to take the microphone away from them. But after that will be followed by an endless amount of Q&A from the panel, which is, I think, where we find the real value in the presentation. So first up, we have David Birchfield from Building Lens. David, come on up.
Hello. I'm the co-founder of Building Lens. We bridge the gap between people, technology, and the utilities supplying our energy. To adapt to climate change, we must fortify the places where we spend 90% of our time, our buildings. Facility managers in large buildings understand this need to adapt to climate change. But who's looking out for the smaller buildings? The majority of America. And that's the problem. Facility management is not cost-effective for small buildings. So we have created an enterprise software as a service that prioritizes human health to save energy in buildings. We have 3 pilot sites, converted my first pilot sites to a paying customer and added 4 more sites, 20 sites scheduled for installation this year, and we just signed our first term sheet this morning. Come join us on this journey for market transformation as we operationalize the triple bottom line. Thank you for your attention.
All right, it's green. So I know that a big challenge with asset management in larger real estate buildings in particular is that a lot of the individual systems are very difficult to get integrated, right? So getting
Yes.
your HVAC systems, your smart monitors that are being used for lighting inside of the building, trash systems. So I would imagine that challenge still exists in smaller buildings. How do you plan to kind of bring everything together into a platform, even with devices that maybe aren't so friendly to do so?
That's a good question. So we plan to leverage the fragmented market, and we are creating a supervisory control system that integrates with IoT devices and building management systems that are connected to the grid. Now, I've been working with building management systems for 10 years. I cut my teeth on stroking dampers in large buildings. So for us to reduce the fragmentation of the market, this is the supervisory control system to eliminate the need for the facility manager in small buildings and make our place a marketplace, Building Lens, for all components that would want to be part of the system. Do you see what I mean? Okay.
So let me ask a related question. So Andreas came at this problem from really the technical diversity of the small business owner. Let me come at it from like your top line here. Small buildings can't afford this. So who exactly are you selling to? Exactly what are you selling to them? And how do you get to the diverse set of small building owners?
Good question. So the first thing I would do, let's say you owned a building, right? And you don't know much about energy efficiency, and you have a building management system that's old, or that you don't know how to operate because the last facility manager was in there. I'd come in there and I'd integrate with that system. And the first thing I would say is, let us assess your building for 3 months and make your air quality better to protect your occupants. So I would install an application that would modulate your dampers outside and your fans, and then reduce the particulate matter indoors when the time is right. Now, 3 months later, I come back to you and I say, hey, Ben, we can say, is the air quality good? And you would tell me yes, hopefully. And I would tell you, Ben, we've been looking at your building for the last 3 months. We can save you $5,000 a year. Then you would say, how do you do that? Well, I would manage your building and make sure that all the set points are good. I'm just being quick right now. Much more happens, right? And then from there, then I would say, you're able to pay $2,500 because we're going to use the data in your building, anonymize it, and sell it back to the utilities. And going back to the utilities is where you leverage my experience. I've been working in the demand-side management industry for the last 12 years. So really, Building Lens is a technology that needs to be there, and our experience with the demand-side management, working with utilities, is what makes us have the ability to resegment the market, make the utilities pay for a little bit of the facility management costs, and make it cheaper for the building owner to manage their facility. Do you see what I mean?
So you have a two-sided model? Just let me, so I'm
Yes,
clear
ma'am.
on this. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, two-sided.
So how much is the cost, right, to the building owner? Because I understand the other side of the model.
You're right.
I'm just trying to understand how much is the cost and how do they pay for that?
It depends on what's in the building. Now, I've been in small commercial buildings a long time. There's many different products there. But let's say that you just have thermostats all around your building. And I say, okay, well, I can replace that thermostat with an Ecobee, get you an incentive from the utility, so you're going to pay like $50 a thermostat. I'm integrated with Ecobee, and I have other sensors that integrate with the Ecobee system. So let's say you had 5 rooftop units, it would cost you like very, very low, I think $250. Now, from Building Lens side, it depends on the rate and how large the building is. Maybe anywhere from $10 a month to $50 a month. Now, once we're able to assess your building, get the interval meter data, look at the dynamics and how it relates to the it's just tip of my tongue, the outdoor air conditions, then we know how much energy we can save. Then we'll come to you like, I can save you $5,000 and it will cost you $2,500. But the big thing for us is we need to get to 300 buildings for our artificial intelligence to have the data it needs to provide the insights. And I have the beachhead opportunity that will get me there.
Are you familiar with the company Virtual Peaker?
Virtual Peaker.
Yeah.
I'm not, but I would love to look them up.
I would recommend. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, having them as a reference point, as a company I'm familiar with operating in this space, pretty adjacent, if not direct to you, is the sales cycles are incredibly challenging. So how are you differentiating and navigating so that you can, as Kathy hit the nail on the head, like go after the most and really make that difference and impact in your space?
Another great question. So the first thing that we have to do is get our numbers up on the building side to get to our artificial intelligence engine. So I have to do that just by on the ground making sales and making that happen. Now, once I get my numbers up, I work with places like the utilities. I'll use Energy Trust of Oregon as an example. I will tell them about our program, which I am doing right now, and how it prioritizes the occupant. And from there, then the Energy Trust of Oregon will help push that into their customers, just push it out into the market. And using them as a help, managing the energy efficiency of the grid and having their name on our stuff will help us push more stuff out into the market. It's just getting to that 300 building mark that we really need to get to in order for us to have the leverage to work with utilities so they can help us get more customers, and it's reciprocal. It feeds itself.
One other thing I would suggest to you is, are you familiar with the Safer Building Coalition?
No, I'm not.
So you should definitely look them up. There's a requirement by federal law for DAS radios to be put into systems for first responders, so to be put into buildings to retrofit, because there's dead space everywhere. So I have a company that does this.
Okay.
I think that there might be a great opportunity for you to partner with them, because when those systems are going in, it's a great opportunity to kind of have this add-on, and that's a mandated piece. So actually, to Candace's point, it would give you the ability to structure a partnership that might improve that sales cycle a little bit.
Thank you. And that's why we created Building Lens, because those are the type of opportunities we look for in order to install that equipment on the front end and make it easier for everybody.
All right, cool. Thank you, David. Next up is Nick Perini with Connects 2X. Or Brian Ringer, because his slide is up next.
I could do a Connects impersonation. All right, so hundreds of thousands of companies have set emissions reductions targets and have launched sustainability initiatives. But over 90% of these companies and these initiatives are off track. They're not hitting their emissions reduction goals, largely because they haven't driven the sort of broad company engagement that they need to make sustainability part of everyone's job across the board. So Get Green, we have a mobile application and a hosted platform that does that. It drives sustainability engagement across the entire team by driving behavior change at first the individual and then the full organizational level. Since we launched the solution at the end of last year, we've done 6 pilot engagements and have 2 paying customers now. Our customers pay us on average $12,000 a year for our solution. We've got a great team in place with a deep background in both mobile application development and platform development at scale, people who have led sustainability programs and driven enterprise sales organizations as well too. And now we're laser focused on growing our sales and marketing capacity and moving from 2 to 10 paying customers over the next 6 months. Thank you.
So Brian, it seems like one of the things that's really important is driving engagement in that business. So what do you do that's special to drive that engagement?
Yeah, so we do a number of things based in both the application and the platform. So we have a heavy gamification layer in there. So we do things that we've seen work in other behavioral modification applications. For example, diet, fitness, things like that. So there's credit systems, there's leaderboards, there's contests, there's badges, there's learning modules, those type of things. And those have really resonated. For all the pilots we've done, one thing which has stood out is we have very high engagement across the board, much higher than even other HR-type applications. People really use the app, and they do go through, and they do start to modify their behavior. And everything for each company is fully customized. So what are their particular goals? What are they trying to achieve around transportation reduction, solid waste reduction, energy saving the facilities? Everything is fully customized for them to meet their goals.
So I guess now that you've had these kind of early, pilots or real customers, what are the main drivers that you're seeing the actual individual employees be pursuing in terms of the behavioral change? Are there a few kind of main areas that they're really diving into, or is it fairly diverse?
It varies a little bit by the organization, but a lot of things are on energy saving, for example, so things they can start to do inside of the office or facilities. Certainly transportation is the easy one where the employees have some direct control over things like commuting and business travel, things like that. And then it will vary by organization. For example, one of the partners we're working with, Talking Rain, who's a large beverage manufacturer, they're very focused on solid waste reduction, for example. And so they start to lead the team through, here's what we're going to start to do, your individual jobs around packaging and things like that. So it does vary by organization, and that's part of what it is, that we do customize it. But they'll start with those type of things around energy reduction, transportation savings, efficiency across the board.
Sorry, follow up on that. How, I guess I don't need the mic, I project. Most people tell me they tell me to be quiet most of the time. So in terms of the actual input, like I download the application, I get it through my employer.
Yeah.
I go and let's say I take a bike to work today instead of driving. What is the process for me to actually enter that into the application?
Yeah, so what you see in the application is a set of recommended actions. Like one of them could be a commuting thing like bike to work, for example. It'll be featured there as a featured thing. You basically say, I'm going to do this one, and then I complete it. And then we tell you what was the emissions reductions which you achieved through saving that. And that turns into a credit system we have inside the application. You earn green leaves for that. And then each employee will start to earn the leaves. We'll be able to see what happens across the board for the entire company, and you can see leaderboards for who's done more type of things, and the companies get a lot of data around what are the employees actually doing, what kind of changes are they making in their daily life, and can see all the data. So, and everything has been designed to be super simple. That's consistent feedback we get, is that the application has a nice, easy flow. It's enjoyable to use. It doesn't feel like a chore for people. That's one of the most critical things to drive engagement.
Okay, so piggybacking off Andreas, as someone who's been an impact investor, I'm very curious. Whenever you earn the leaves, I notice in your content on your website and even poking around in the app, it talks about earning leaves to spend on carbon removal projects. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, so we have a version of the application that regular consumers use, and they have an option we give them to do carbon removal things. For companies, it's usually very targeted. Like, for example, with one of our customers right now, they're doing a company-wide initiative, which is everything that the employees can do to reduce their own emissions, the company is going to match with offsets as well. And so we actually, in that case, we connect them with offset partners who they want to work with a different program. So it's basically an incentive towards the company. We're going to match all your efforts. We're going to match as well, too. And it's a pound-for-pound kind of thing. Every pound of CO2 equivalent that they've avoided from emissions, the company will match in terms of doing offsets. So.
How do you decide which companies to target?
What we're looking at, really we see two types of things. Companies who are launching new programs and are sort of, they know, hey, out of the gate we want to get the teams on board and drive engagement early on. So companies, we're working with companies which are 500 employees or more. That's kind of where we're starting with. We have done a lot of pilots with universities. A lot of the universities have deployed our solution out to their classes, students, things like that. But for the companies we work with, companies who are 500 employees or more, often launch a new sustainability program, trying to get the team on board first, early on. Or they've had a program which has been in the works for a little while, and they're off track. And they're realizing, if we're going to really do something other than make statements and targets, we need to get the entire company involved and change the kind of the organizational behavior.
Do you have a way for employees to offer suggestions beyond what's in there? And how difficult is it to add that? Because I think what I've seen when these kind of systems get put out there is employees come up sometimes with much better suggestions than management had to begin with.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a lot of what we see. So the answer is yes, there's a way in there for suggestion actions. we get a ton of feedback from the employees of the company. And I think that's one of the real benefits, especially when these companies are launching programs, to really get that feedback kind of bottoms up from what really makes a difference, because that's the change they have to make, is kind of at that day-to-day operational level, and the people who are closest doing the job know what can be done and really has the largest impact. And we've built on the back end a really nice custom CMS system. Makes it easy for us to take those and have them live in a day or so inside the application.
So I'm sensing some kind of maybe customization almost by employee. Is this really a repeatable product that can be out there, or is just everybody different?
So this was one of the early design points, was to make it so it felt customizable for each company, but could be done in an automated manner. And that's a lot of my background, the team's background, is on building enterprise software solutions, which can feel like they're very well targeted, but you can do all the customization automatically. So when we roll out a new partner, it's a zero-code kind of deployment. We can do it all through tools on the back end. It's everything from logo, custom actions, featured lists for them. Automatically data gets set up, reports get generated for them. So it all gets done without any code. We roll out new partners like that. That was one of the design points that we knew we needed to do to be able to scale effectively.
So then to Benjamin's point, once there's some scale to this, right, and you've got, let's say, 100 customers, is the intent to kind of open that back end or have a dashboard on the backside so that the company can license it, but they get the customization and kind of get to put those pieces in there?
Yeah, I think that's where we'll head. Those are the requests that we hear most often, is an API so we can get access to the data. They really want to know. They can see maybe some high-level things as well, but to really know what exactly is happening across the board for the companies, what's happening, how much of people in the headquarters office compared to field offices, what's happening there. So that data that we actually have, it's not theoretical data, it's actual data, contributed by users. So that's one. And then to have some of these other controls, there's a whole system in place for targeted messaging and push notifications in the mobile app, and they want to be able to control those type things as well, too. So. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. All right, next up we have Wilson Hago with Hago Energetics.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm from California. I actually bought a Mirai recently, and I tried to fill it up, and I found out that there's no hydrogen half the time at the refueling station. And hydrogen is being viewed as the fuel of the future. It's also being viewed as a fuel for heavy-duty vehicles. So what is the problem that we're addressing? Is that there's no hydrogen, and the hydrogen that there is ridiculously expensive. I looked up, I took a picture of it. It's $26.75 per kilogram. That is 2 to 3 times as expensive as diesel. So much for the future of hydrogen. So our approach is to increase the availability of hydrogen by going after waste materials. So we convert waste materials to hydrogen. Now this is very different than what's out there. Out there, people are doing is electrolysis of water to create the hydrogen. They use a process that uses a lot of fossil fuels. It creates a lot of carbon dioxide called steam methane reforming. So our solution is to convert waste methane that can be found readily available from wastewater treatment plants, landfill facilities, farms, and natural gas from natural gas oil rigs. We convert that waste methane to hydrogen and carbon. The carbon goes back into the soil where it can be used for agricultural purposes. So what is not there to like? We increase the supply of hydrogen, we decrease the carbon footprint, and we lower the cost of hydrogen presently available today. So our traction is that we have 2 paid pilots right now. One is in the state of California at a dairy farm, at one of the largest farms in the United States. The other one is a wastewater treatment facility in upstate New York. So what we are doing right now, we have raised about $1 million in undiluted funding, and we are about to scale up our technology. We also have patents for proprietary technology. So our next step is to scale up our technology. Thank you very much.
So brilliant. Can you tell me about your team? Like, who's on your team? What are their backgrounds, experience in this space?
Yeah. Myself, I have a PhD in chemistry. There is a catalyst chemist to one of the, to my point of view, one of the best catalyst chemists in the world. There's also an operations manager that is based in New York. We also have a VP of strategy. And my brother, who's situated here, is going to be helping us with sales. And there are a whole bunch of other people behind us.
So tell us a little bit more about what scale you're at right now and what scale has to get to before this is commercially attractive.
Right. So right now the pilots are a very small scale trailer sized. They're 1 kilo a day. The next scale after this is 100 times as big, 100 kilos a day. The following stage after that is going to be our commercial scale, which is 2 tons a day. And so that's we view our sweet spot in terms of commercial deployment. And then in terms of think about it in terms of cows, like say for farms, we're thinking about something of between 1,000 to 2,000 cows per farm to put our facilities in. For a wastewater treatment plant, we're thinking about a population of about 100,000 people.
So could you maybe fill us in on what you think the demand curve for hydrogen is in the future? And then maybe on the tail of that also speak to, I know that hydrolysis is getting significantly cheaper, but is mostly just being used in manufacturing facilities. So kind of maybe on those two areas, like what do you think the demand is going to do over time, and what are the drivers of that? And how do you think you'll compete against the cost of hydrolysis?
Right. Yeah, so what we see the demand right now, what we see our best price point, it's in the transportation industry, particularly heavy-duty vehicle industry. That's where we see the highest price that we can command for the hydrogen that we produce. And that's what I think that's where actually hydrogen has an advantage against the battery electric vehicles. People say, yeah, batteries are going to take over the world, but I think it's another story in regards when we're talking about heavy-duty vehicles. Ultimately, I mean, hydrogen is going to be very high in demand for a whole variety of different industries. For example, in ammonia production, also the natural gas industry is going to require to inject some hydrogen into their pipelines. And your other question was? The cost of electrolysis, yeah. There are some problems with electrolysis. I mean, we view ourselves as complementary to electrolysis. One of the problems with electrolysis, you may know, is that it requires use of heavy platinum metals, very expensive metals. Iridium is one of them, and so it's hard to see how they're going to get to very low price point. And then we come in at a lower price than they do.
Are you processing on site with these two paid pilots?
Yes.
Okay, so you've built the infrastructure on.
Right. Well, yeah. The way we work with, we build the facilities, our sites, and we transport them to the local sites.
And is it always mobile? Like you can.
Well, at the beginning is mobile, but later on it's going to be big facilities that cannot be moved.
Okay.
Stationary.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just immediately thinking of CapEx.
It's big CapEx, yeah. Big CapEx. The thinking behind us for us is this is all going to be project financing. We're not going to require the site managers or the site location to put up any money. It's all going to come out through the revenues of the hydrogen sales.
Okay. I'm going to stop.
So the interaction with the site owner is, I mean, what do they have to do?
They just have to give us the waste methane. And then so we would pay them, there was a 3-year agreement, okay, we pay to lease the land, and there would be some sort of revenue sharing for the hydrogen sales, for example. But that's it. I mean, we would take care, would own and operate the facilities and take care of everything else.
And then just very quickly, what are the economics on, let's say at your 2 ton per day kind of scale? What's the economics to the owner? What's the economics to you? What's the amortization of the CapEx? Just kind of roughly, what does this look like?
Right. So the economics look at the mid-scale size, we're looking at less than $3 a kilo. And remember the sales, we can sell it for significantly more than that. And then also there are carbon credits behind all of this, so which actually double the almost double the advantage or the benefit, the revenues from the sales of the hydrogen. The federal government is really pushing hydrogen at the moment.
What are the output products from this production? So when you go in and convert the methane gas into hydrogen, what are the solid, liquid, and gas outputs?
Yeah, there are two primary products. There's the hydrogen, and then there's something called biochar, which goes into the soil. And this biochar has the carbon from the methane in it.
Any other questions? No? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Wilson. Okay, next up we have a company whose founder is going through oral surgery tomorrow to have his wisdom teeth extracted, so he did not make the flight today. So Halon Technologies is a novel battery management system for managing batteries. Their first market is going to be in the commercial drone market, and they hope to scale up from there.
Hi, my name is Dante Weisbord, and I'm the co-founder and chief operating officer of Halon Technologies. At Halon Technologies, we're developing a new system that uses artificial intelligence and novel controls to intelligently combine multiple energy sources together. So the end value for customers comes from being able to store more energy in a smaller amount of space and having longer hardware product lifespans, resulting in lower costs. So there is a hardware component to what we are doing, which we're in the process of designing. But long-term, our company is going to develop a chip and software set that we license to major companies across a variety of markets. We're starting with the lithium polymer drone battery market. And moving on, we plan to focus on backup power systems and battery energy storage software. Long-term, however, this technology has applications across the battery software market. Thank you so much.
Next up, we have Nick Perini from Connects 2X. See, I didn't forget you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Kathy Wood for the car talk. We're the car guys in the group here. So I'm going to stick to my script because we only have 90 seconds here, and I know Ken will get the hook. We face a critical moment in the history of our planet. The challenges in protecting our environment, reducing our carbon footprint, and fatalities on our roads are vast, but the opportunities are just as great. One such opportunity is an emerging technology called Vehicle to Everything, or V2X for short. It's promised to reduce our carbon footprint and save lives. Worldwide, governments, technology, and telecommunications companies are spending trillions of dollars on V2X, and China is leading the world. The U.S. has committed over $60 billion over the next 5 years to build out this smart infrastructure, and Europe is also making similar pledges. But the responsibility to act does not rest solely with governments or large corporations. Each and every one of us must take ownership of our own carbon footprint and do our part to reduce the impact that we have on this planet. Here's how we do it. In order for it to work, the vehicles that we drive must communicate with the infrastructure and one another, or the whole thing fails. Some good news is that the vehicle manufacturers are poised to adopt V2X in the coming years. But it's not enough. Unless we begin to enable the 1.4 billion vehicles that are already on our roads, we will fail to make a meaningful difference in our lifetime and continue to put countless lives at risk. And that's where we and everyone in this room can play a part. Research shows that benefits begin when you can reach 10% of the vehicle population. It's a new frontier and a generational opportunity for investors, corporations, and for us to make a difference. This summer, we will be deploying OB, which is our V2X prototype. It incorporates this extraordinary technology and some remarkable features like green light optimization, vehicle diagnostics, and ChatGPT. So whether we drive one car or you own a fleet of vehicles, we must embrace these new technologies and invest in our future. Let's be the generation that rises to the challenge and leads the way towards a cleaner, brighter, and safer future for all generations. Thank you.
Questions for Nick?
So I got a little confused. So your target customer, though, is the individual owner of a particular vehicle that already has a vehicle. It's
Correct.
not fleets, it's existing.
Well, no, and it includes fleets. It's the 1.4 billion vehicles that are on the roads today include fleets. It's
And
the
you
entire
get
vehicle population.
and you get to a meaningful value add when 10% of the population.
Correct.
But you don't think coming at the new vehicle market is the way to do that?
No, but that's what's like really failed in the past. There's not enough traction for the new cars to get out to really make a difference. And see, that's been the problem. V2X technology has actually been around for many years, but it was always kind of a chicken and egg thing. So they were building infrastructure, but the vehicle manufacturers were kind of caught not knowing exactly really where to dig in and and make these investments. So the Cadillac, Toyota started this 2016, I think, was the first year for V2X technology, but nothing has really happened. But with the investments now in the infrastructure bill, the vehicle manufacturers themselves now are committing to be putting this technology. And there's actually two types of technologies. There's what they call the network technology or cellular. In fact, oftentimes now it's referred to as V2X. But there's also another component, it's called the direct connection of V2X. And that is really where we're going to see some of the safety values. And this is what the new car manufacturers are going to be putting in their cars. But this is also the prototype. These are also what we're going to put in the cars that are already existing in order to get that traction.
So I guess where my challenge was as an individual consumer, if I'm going to be the buyer of the tech, what's my incentive to buy this?
Well, number one is to save the planet. But also V2X is a safety device. That was what it was really designed for. And Kathy Wood pointed it out. I mean, there was 43,000 Americans that were killed last year and hundreds of thousands that are injured every year. So in this particular case with V2X, we get to solve a lot of problems that are out there. Not only the deaths that are on our highways and the injuries, but it's also proven to reduce carbon emissions. So it kind of kills the three-headed monster, whether it's safety, whether it's carbon emissions. And what is that third one? The crashes on the road and the costs and the operating costs. Oh, correct, Paul. Thanks. Yeah.
So could you really dive into the crash reduction effect of a V2X?
As I mentioned, there's two types of communication with V2X. Okay, there's the cellular version, and then there's this direct connection. What that does, it's able to see around corners. There's no limit to what it can see. So, and message will be sent to vehicles, letting them know. So there's direct communications with vehicles, right? So we will know the speed at which car is coming. To avoid, there will be messages that are displayed to watch, to kind of avoid these cars. Making left-hand turns, for instance, is in a lot of cases, people have problems making it because they can't really tell the speed of another car is traveling. But these direct communications will tell you exactly what the speed is and how to, be much safer.
Sure. So I guess in that, for the system to fully kind of reach that 80% reduction in crashes, I would assume that everybody else around me on the road would also have to be having a V2X device inside their car, right? So that our cars could actually properly communicate to each other?
Correct.
So how do you plan to, over time, create, outside of just the environmental impact of this, how do you create a marketing campaign and get the product into the hands of where, the average American who's driving maybe a $3,000 truck would want to get this kind of device?
I appreciate that. Very good. So our first rollout is with what we call crowdfunding or early adopters. In addition to that, my experience has been in the automotive aftermarket, and that's really our bench strength. Because no one's ever really commercialized this V2X technology. It's always been left to either the vehicle manufacturers or the governments to try to push this. In fact, there's been pilot programs here in Tampa, maybe you've heard about it. But we're the first company that I'm aware of, and I haven't heard of anyone else, to really try to commercialize this and to get all of us with this technology to be able to put it in their car. And the way we're going to be able to do that, too, is because of the relationship that we have with some of the shop management systems that are out there. So all of us probably take our cars to get them fixed somewhere. Maybe some of you do it yourselves. But most of us go and take our cars to garages. Well, we have access to those garages, and so the goal is to provide them with the technology that they can sell to their customers, and it also keeps them connected with their customers too. So, for instance, one company that we have a relationship with has 38,000 shops under management. So that type of rollout will kind of get that flywheel spinning. And beyond that, then again, shop management systems are the way to go, and there's relationships that we have because most of us get our cars fixed at a repair shop. And the price, I'm going to point out too, that the price is set that people are incentivized to do it. I mean, it's going to be about $350. So the ROI on it, whether it be insurance savings, fuel savings, and all these statistics prove that there is, again, we bring down the cost of operations of a vehicle. So it's something that most people can afford, and we've tried to do it,
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Next up, we have Narayan Iyer with Laminar Scientific.
Thank you so much. The clean energy transition is inhibited by the intermittency of current renewable energy technology. Wind and solar, if you think about it, they're erratic. They're very important right now, and they will be very important, but erratic and need fossil fuels for stability. That's why Laminar Scientific is creating the Manta Wave. It's a device that generates energy from ocean waves, one of the steadiest forms of renewable energy that there is. Our device has some key advantages over existing systems. It's very easy to install at the sea surface. You don't need drones, you don't need divers. It has 5 times fewer moving parts than competitor systems, so think reliability. It's also dynamically adaptable to different wave conditions to survive storms. So we're focusing this initial product on an initial market, which is island and coastal communities, resilient communities. They have really high energy costs, and they need to ship in diesel. They can't connect to an integrated grid. So, in fact, we actually have a contract with the Southeast Asian mining and energy company, a $1 million contract. We have received a Department of Energy grant via Teamer. We've raised $500,000. We have 2 patents and 3 pending patents. So we have some great partners over there. Techstars, we're enrolled in the Industries of the Future cohort. We got an investment from them, and it's a clean tech cohort. Our team comprises of fresh perspectives from an aerospace engineer and a tribal knowledge from energy industry experts who have one of them has an exit in the energy industry. And the other one is a PhD from TU Delft in marine energy. So join us in riding the waves of the future.
Yeah. Questions from the panel? Anyone?
So extracting energy from waves, because people have been doing this for a long time. Up in Great Britain, people have spent a lot of money doing that. So what makes this system magical now?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. So wave energy has usually been pretty expensive. That's because of the 3 barriers to entry that you see over here, so right over there. It's hard to install, it's inaccessible. We have a patent pending method to make it extremely easy to install it at the surface level. We also, 5 times less moving parts than existing systems. We really simplified our system, as you can see over here. It can go into the weeds of it, but Oak Ridge National Labs is helping us optimize those linear generators. Anyway, here's a really good point. So the shape adapts to storms. Instead of over-engineering the system to face the storm and survive the storm, the shape adapts to it. And that actually helps us reduce cost tremendously. Those over-engineered systems are not optimal in nominal conditions because they're built for the extreme conditions. We build for the nominal conditions, and we avoid by changing shape and passively changing shape. We avoid the extreme conditions.
So one of the challenges with wave and tidal energy in general has not only been the cost, but it's also the surface area that you have to take up to produce a meaningful amount of power. And then the other side is storage near. Usually you have to have storage to get it in grid near the water usually to
that's a very
eke out peaks and troughs. So I guess anyway, it was just what's unique as to the design here to where it's able to generate a little bit more power per square kilometer of coverage area that you guys would have.
That's a very good question. Actually, wave energy is 63 times more dense than wind energy, about 300 times more dense than solar energy. Think about it this way. You're walking on a windy day. You're not going to get blown away. You walk into the water when you have waves, you're going to get pushed around. Extremely dense. So you don't need as big of a system to garner as much energy, reliable, good amount of energy. So that's your first question. The second question was, I'm sorry, could you say that again?
It was just mainly how it cuts down on the surface area needed for traditional tide and wave energy.
Yeah. Oh, you also said storage. So here, our device is 1,000 foot away from shore, and there is a sea cable that runs back. It's not drawn here because it gets a little crowded, but it's a slack sea cable, and 1,000 foot is a nearshore system. It doesn't have to be as complex of a cable.
So talk a little bit about this traction that you've got.
Yeah.
What exactly are you installing to do what?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So this early contract that we got was a monetization of the concept. We found a way to monetize even at a concept level. So we are licensing the patents for the device in Southeast Asia to this company, Mofatma Energy, and they get an exclusive license in Southeast Asia. And the way we're getting paid is a licensing fee of $1 million. As we prove our system, as we prove our technology, we get those milestone revenues. We've had now countless engineering meetings, really, prior to them signing the deal, we had 4, and they really studied our system, including Oak Ridge National Labs studied our system before Techstars accepted us. And they saw the huge benefit compared to existing systems. Anyway, they are going to manufacture the first pilot buoy, and we'll guide them through that manufacturing. So it's a huge win for us because we get a relatively expensive system built, expensive for a startup, built by them, and testing conducted together in Southeast Asia, and they get all of Southeast Asia in their patent rights.
So what's the material that's being used? What's the material made out of? Because you explained the durability, so what's the material?
Yeah, so aluminum 6061 is the skin, and we have a coating that goes on it. So we're actually deciding the coating.
So it's flexible from that perspective.
Semi-rigid? Yeah, it's quite rigid, I should say. It is malleable in extreme conditions. It has some malleability. What happens here as it changes shape, and that portion that you were talking about, these two flaps, they move
like a manta ray?
Well, yeah, it kind of opens up.
Okay, that would make sense to me, so I understand that. I'm a diver, so I get that, right?
Yeah, it was like a manta ray. That's how it changes shape.
One other question. So it would seem to me that one of the areas that would be very beneficial would be actually islands, right? For a whole lot of reasons. What's the cost? How long would it take them to recover? I mean, because a hurricane on an island basically can leave them without power for a very long time.
Yep. So we did some calculations here, and of course, as we do our pilot, we'll have more information. It's able to survive a lot of storms, but when it comes to a 100-year storm, we ask that it just be taken away, and that can be done at the surface level very easily. What the cost, like the unit economics of this?
Basically, when you hit a 60-mile-an-hour wind on an island in the Caribbean, all the power is shut down on purpose. Yeah. It's intentional, so that's kind of my point.
Yeah. The cost of this, so the go-to-market product is a smaller system. It's a 40-kilowatt system. In Southeast Asia, that's about 60 to 75 homes. In California, that's much less. Okay. But that's because of the power demand. Southeast, yeah.
Okay, so beyond this partnership that you have with this Southeast Asian entity, where do you go from here? How are you growing your impact?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, what we want to do is not have the licensing revenue model anymore. This is a one-time play, and it's very good to actually prove our technology. But once proof of concept is done, we want to partner with manufacturers to actually build and sell the units. So that's what our goal is, to be a part of manufacturing and sale of these devices around the world. But the first proof of concept and getting the fervor behind this, we have a partnership for. Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Next up is Todd Klepperis from Techmara. No. Do it. Come on.
So Ken's telling me no, but I still have to say yes because I'm the entrepreneur that doesn't take no for an answer. So I'm sorry, but today was a monumentous day on the ocean, right? We took a device like this, which is a water desalinization device, and we grew this, which is actually the world's first sustainable mushroom on the ocean. Now, why is that important? Well, watch what happens. If we can grow sustainable food on the ocean, then we can change agriculture. And if we can do that, then we can radically change the future for our planet. We need more water. Our planet will suffer from drought for the next 50 to 100 years. If we don't change that, if we don't get in front of that, your grandkids, I'm not kidding, your grandkids will suffer from drought forever. So what we're doing is we're taking desalinated water off the ocean. We're creating mushrooms right now. We can do any kind of produce we want. And we're actually creating an eco-sustainable environment down in Siesta Key. And I invite all you guys to come down and see it. As a matter of fact, we're on TikTok. We're on all kinds of stuff. I didn't even know I had to be on TikTok, but whatever, I'm on TikTok now. So, what we're doing is we're making a food source on the ocean. It's not the food. It's actually an eco-sustainable pod that actually creates an eco-structure to be able to create like a profit model for science. That enables us the ability to create wealth for the scientific community, including red tide research, we're working NOAA now, as a matter of fact, on red tide research. That stuff is powerful. And what we're doing down in the ocean in Sarasota, I'd love for you guys to see. I don't need more than that time. I mean, you guys can ask me all kinds of questions, but we're 100,000% behind it. Scott's Miracle-Gro is already with us. We have some really big partners, and I've already got 3 big contracts in other countries. I fear the United States will not take advantage of this quickly. I talked to Ben about this before. The United States is kind of pushed back on technology like this. We're already advanced behind it. We're already well advanced behind it. We're already deployed. So if you can see this and see Techmara, it's ocean coastal defense for the future. Thank you. And sorry to Ken, I'm sorry, but I had to bring that up.
I have so many questions.
Sure,
So
please.
I'll just start with one. I'm a former farmer, so this is my vibe right here. Okay, so I want to know who is your target customer? I mean, you addressed a little bit. Who is your target customer, and how is this, so high impact for them and so high value to speak to your mission?
Our target customer for the produce is guys like the Ritz-Carlton, who's already taken the product and investigated it now. Our target product for the pods are governments globally, where we can get a power purchase agreement to be able to supply clean food, clean water, and clean power globally. Think about that for a second. Let me stop right there. If I can create clean food, clean water, and clean power globally, that's a massive hit. And Candace, by the way, I'm a 6,000 person farm guy back in my old town when I grew up. So I understand farming in itself is actually kind of broken, because agriculture in itself, the soil's depleted. If we continue the way we're going, the soil literally is not going to... Anybody in this room, tell me, can you taste an apple today that tastes like when you were a kid? Can you taste a strawberry that tastes like a strawberry before? Right? When you go to the store, do you buy something that really tastes like that? I will guarantee you, hey, Andreas, you take that mushroom home, it's $5,000. I'll guarantee you, I sold the first pound of mushrooms for $1,000 to a restaurant in San Antonio, Texas called Bistro 9. No joke, because it was the world's first ocean-grown produce. That significantly changes the world, right? So what are we doing? We're trying to make sure that people have a sustainable future for their kids, grandkids. We create clean water, clean food, and clean power. I love these guys. Tampa Bay Innovation Center has been great. I went to the state, now we got the Secretary of State, Secretary of Commerce. Gardening, or let's call it what we used to do as kids, was, when you had your little plot of land, right? In the future, what's better than being in front of a mangrove, which you can't destroy now anyways, and create pods where we can actually have sustainability and stop coastal erosion, right? So our grand plan is to stop coastal erosion and make sure that people can have a long-term future around our coastlines. I hope that answers the question, Candace. Please, go, 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 go. She's got a lot. She's a farmer. She's got a lot for me, I guarantee it. I'm sure she's got a lot. It's okay.
Okay, so the pot. You know, it's interesting, the previous company and then transitioning to this company. So, like, the environment in which you're launching these pods, Andreas asked an excellent question earlier about this. Whenever you talk about like surface area and
Sure.
the amount of space that's required, like
Sure.
obviously traditional agriculture, thousands of acres. How do you
Thousands.
translate that into this environment?
That's a very good question. So there's a very big industry right now called vertical farming. There's a company called InFarm, which has actually spent they raised $600 million and they're failing. Why are they failing? Because the two biggest constraints when you have a vertical farm are what? Power and water. Exactly, input. We eliminate all that. We don't have the water requirement. We don't have the power requirement. I'm on the water. I literally, every day I'm down in the pod. I literally take temperature sensors, but I have it remotely on my phone. You guys can see it later if you want. I literally take the inputs off the ocean, and we'll destroy vertical farming. And I hate to say it. I've already reached out to InFarm, but if you look at what we're doing is, we take the market segment. So watch this. If you can take 20 20-foot containers, think about this, 20 20-foot containers, you can do 60 acres of land. So what can I do with a pod? This pod right here will produce enough for the restaurants that are buying them now. I have 5 pre-sold already, meaning the production off these pods are already pre-sold. I don't have to worry about that, and I've got contracts in place with 3 other countries. I think the United States is going to be a laggard in this. I think what I'm going to get are people going to fight this. They're going to say, this will never happen here. Oh, you can't do this on our coastline. There's all kinds of problems. I'm going to advance this in other countries because I believe what's going to happen is people are going to try and stop this here. I just said it. Clean food, clean power, clean energy. Where else can you get that?
Oh, I got a lot of questions.
Bring it, Joy.
No, not in a bad way. So this is very important to me. So there's a reason
Please.
I have questions. So how big is one of those pods?
Currently, the MVP is 3x5. The next production pods, which we're looking for the $500,000 to build the next pods, will be 6x6. That'll actually provide enough food for the restaurants we've already engaged with. By the way, they're the Ritz-Carlton, Kojo Foods in Sarasota, which is a 5-star restaurant. If you haven't been there, I'm advertising for Natalie. She's fantastic. The restaurant's awesome. And the last one is a restaurant that we have to keep under wraps until they actually sign a contract. But we have them buying full production lines for the entire year. See what I'm doing? We have profit. Think about this, guys. On the ocean, if something costs $100 to build on land, it costs $6,000 to build on the ocean. No joke. It's incredibly difficult to build on the ocean. What we're doing is proving the model already, selling to restaurants so they buy production for years at a time, and going to the restaurants first, because once we have established the fact that people will buy ocean-built food, they're going to go, huh, it's fantastic. You mean it's from the ocean? I can get food from the ocean? That mushroom right there sitting in front of them is from the ocean? Wow.
One more question, then we need to move on.
Okay.
She's got a lot of questions. I'm sorry.
I'm like,
We're out of here at 8, so.
All right. You guys can get me after.
so I'll ask you some more questions after.
Please.
So 500K, what does that get you? So how many is that? What does that look like?
With 10 pods on the property that we already own, we will be able to leverage that into a production level where we're going to be sold out for the first couple years, and then we're going to scale to thousands of pods. Literally.
So is 500K equal 10? What is 500K?
Yeah, 500K
Okay.
equals 10. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
500K equals 10. It's actually with operational cost built in. Our CapEx on that is very strong, and our return on investment is very strong, so we're good. And this is not my first time, by the way. I've done this 4 times. I've done startups and then exited out. My team includes people from MIT, from Rutgers University, from Virginia Tech. I've got astrophysicists on my team. I'm not joking around, guys. A friend of mine
I'm in
died.
Sarasota, so you're going to have to show me some of these mushrooms, and I'm
Please.
a diver, so no problem.
All right, yeah, absolutely. Come down. Come down.
Are we good?
Are we good?
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Todd. All right, our final presentation is with Hemant Sethi with Zero Circle.
Hey, thank you guys. Try to get you out here soon. So we all know that today banks use some form of credit and financial assessment to issue loans for organizations. But over the next 20, 30 years, $60 trillion of current assets under management have to be transformed to green capital. And there does not exist any viable option for small businesses to be able to tap into the green capital market. For large organizations, there are green bonds that companies have issued, and you can actually create multi-million-dollar initiatives for that. But if you're a truck driver driving a 5-fleet truck from Tallahassee to Atlanta, you have no viable option. So what we've done is we've created an innovative platform to essentially allow businesses to connect with lenders and allow them to get access to green capital. We do this by essentially using our AI platform to qualify the businesses for sustainability based on lender-specific criteria. Then we connect the specific lenders based on the lender's specific impact performance criteria that they're looking for. And then once the loan is issued, then we work with the businesses to essentially track their sustainable KPIs and metrics on an ongoing basis to meet some of the covenants of the loans, which many of these do over time. So the market is pretty large. There's literally 2 days ago I saw McKinsey issue that there's $27 trillion of capital that needs to be deployed over the next 30 years to really reach 2050 goals. So the market is really big, and we are really touching the surface in terms of what we need to do. Plus, most of the businesses are small and medium businesses that actually have to drive that transformation. So where we are right now, we're still at a very early stage, and we're working on a number of pilots right now to essentially quantify and identify the kinds of metrics we want to essentially use. We're talking to a number of banks as part of the partnership to essentially roll out these programs with the banks. And then we have a live platform for the organizations to start tracking their metrics. And then once we prove the product market fit, then we'll essentially take this to market on a much larger scale. Thank you.
So there's a number of different people that are trying to connect an appropriate lender to an appropriate buyer of this asset, or person needing the asset. What makes your approach special for this particular problem?
So most of the ones that I've seen are usually trying to do project finance or crowdfunding of those types of programs. What we are trying to focus specifically is on connecting our AI technology to do this a little bit at scale, focusing on the supply chain side. Some of our partners are actually in the supply chain financing solutions and systems, and then focusing on the small, medium businesses. So it's a little bit of a combination of a slightly different vertical, but it's to your point, right? This is not an unknown problem. It's a slightly different take on an existing problem.
So are you acting as the servicer for these loans? Is that how you're able to collect the data?
Not right now. We may in the future. Today it's really just about tacking on sustainable qualifications on top of an existing loan criteria. Because eventually, there's a lot of requirements required to become a servicer. But eventually,
sure. It seems inevitable, right? That you eventually become the servicer. Yeah. So I guess with the inputs for the individual inputs that say I as a business would put in when looking for a loan from the platform. Is that going to be specific to each lender, or are you going to be going to the different lenders and recommending a set of, do they have to edit their covenants based upon what you guys recommend? Like, what's the process? Are they deeming to you, here's all the inputs we want, and then every loan application I have to put in unique inputs? Or are you setting the standard for how I apply to these loans and then going to the lenders and giving them a standardized application?
So we are actually following the green bond principles. And using that framework as part of that. The green bond today applies for, again, these multi-million-dollar loans. And there are these third-party agencies that essentially audit the covenants of those loans to make sure that it meets those criteria. So we are basically taking the same principles and applying it to the small and medium segment. So we're not trying to create our own framework, which is basically reapplying an existing framework that is there.
No, go ahead, Andres.
Stick with it. So can you walk us through a little bit of the economics of this? What's your kind of take rate for issuing the loans? I'm assuming you get some sort of bonus for loans that are paid past certain parts of completion, et cetera, right?
Yeah, right now we're still testing it, so we don't know exactly where we'll go, but the general idea is there's a platform fee for the organization because there's a tracking element to this, right? It's not a once and done effort. So we have to track the system KPIs on an ongoing basis, so it's almost like a platform fee. But then once the loan is issued by the lender, then there's some kind of basis points percentage on top of the loan that we are looking to use as well. That's the idea.
Are all three pilots in the supply chain space? Just asking.
Yeah, so one is a waste management company. Another one is a logistics transported company, small company, and then the last one is actually an aqua farm that we're trying to figure out how to measure their sustainability.
All right. All right, that's the end of our presentations. I hope you enjoyed that. We will be around for a little while for any follow-up networking, so if you want to corner one of these founders and ask them additional questions, they, I'm sure, would be happy to chat with you. I want to thank our corporate champions once again, ARK Invest, as well as Duke Energy and Pods. I want to thank Kathy Wood for coming out and providing a keynote. Thanks again to Mark Swanson, if he's still here, there he is, for being kind of the impetus behind this program. I want to thank the St. Pete EDC for sponsoring and helping sponsor this event. And I want to thank our panel of experts coming and asking excellent questions and grilling our startup founders. So thank you for that. Last but not least, I want to thank the brave founders for participating in this program and enduring 12 weeks of workshops with me and challenging themselves to actually take their idea, follow their passion, and build some interesting products on top of that. So thank you very much. My final challenge is to you, the community. These companies don't exist without your support. The support of the programs that we have here, but also from the messages that you heard today, that you can carry those messages to people that you know, to open up your Rolodex, to find customers, to help them with additional research, and to potentially talk with them about their products if it applies to your business or a business of a friend. So please help us spread that message. Please help them succeed with the projects that they're working on. So that's my call to action to you for coming out tonight, and I thank you very much for your attention.